Here's Ruth in Virginia Beach. Nice to have you on the program, Ruth. Welcome.
Thank you, Rush. 20 years of waiting and trying to call. But today I wanted to say yesterday I was listening very intently to what the sheriff was saying concerning the right wing and radio talk, etc. And I thought, let me check something. And I went to the computer and I put in, when they bring a knife, we bring a gun. Because I thought that was something that I had heard then Senator Obama say when he was campaigning in Philadelphia. And lo and behold, that was exactly what I saw and heard.
You are exactly right out there. President Obama's been full of that kind of rhetoric. In fact, you remember back during the days of the controversy over the bonuses at AIG, some of his support stormtroopers from Acorn were protesting on the front yards of the homes of AIG executives. And Obama told those guys, I'm the only guy between you and the pitchforks.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? President Obama has said a number. We have 3 sound bites of President Obama. If graphics on Palin's Facebook page can incite violence, and what about stuff like this? This Obama, September 17th, in 2008, during a campaign event in Elko, Nevada.
I need you to go out and talk to your friends and talk to your neighbors. I want you to talk to them whether they're independent or whether they are Republican. I want you to argue with them and get in their face.
Argue with them and get in their face. March 18, 2009, Washington. After Obama delivered remarks on the South Lawn about bonuses on Wall Street, a reporter said, Mr. President, a new round of bonuses from these contracts are coming out. What can you say to the American public to quell the anger? Because people are angry about this new round of bonuses. There's more bonuses that's said to be coming for AIG executives.
I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry. What I want us to do, though, is channel our anger in a constructive way.
I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry with the movement. And just a few weeks ago, October 25th, the syndicated host on a Univision show said, Mr. President, you were able to pass a health care plan, and you worked a lot for that, and most of my listeners, they haven't seen that. Same way you work for health care immigration reform, same effort.
If Latinos sit out the election, instead of saying we're going to punish our enemies and we're going to reward our friends who stand with us on issues that are important to us, if they don't see that kind of upsurge in voting in this election, then I think it's going to be harder. And that's why I think it's so important that people focus on voting on November 2nd.
Punish our enemies. Spoken like a true community organizer. Hand-to-hand combat. Get in your neighbor's face. He also said, find an ass to kick. I mean, President Obama is a lifelong political agitator. What do political agitators do but get people angry? That's what a community organizer is. And that is what he did. We have more of the sheriff, by the way. Audio soundbite number 8. And in order Saturday night, this is before he appeared with Megyn Kelly on Fox on Sunday. This is Pima County Sheriff Clarence Dupnick held a press conference to talk about the mass shooting. And we have 3 sound bites from that press conference.
It's time as a country that we need to do a little soul searching, because I think the vitriolic rhetoric that we hear day in and day out from people in the radio business and some people in the TV business, and what we see on TV and how our youngsters are being raised, that this has not become the nice United States of America that most of us grew up in. And I think it's time that we do the soul searching.
So here you had an unfortunate event, many people shot, killed, wounded. And people in the radio business, some people in the TV business see what on TV, how our youngsters are being raised. You mean like the shooter, Sheriff? How was the shooter being raised, Sheriff? In your community, Sheriff. The shooter did what he did in your community. You're in charge of keeping that community safe, Sheriff. Well, what did you do? Was this the first time you heard about the shooter, or did you have knowledge of the shooter before this? I would wager that the sheriff knew of this shooter long before this event. Well, the sheriff's gone ahead now with these comments, and he has given the defense a case. My guess, sheriff wouldn't mind if the shooter's acquitted. After all, it's not the shooter's fault. If you carry the sheriff's logic all the way out. Well, what do you mean, HR? If the sheriff's going to speculate, I'm going to speculate. But how does it feel? Hey, sheriff, I'll bet you hope he's acquitted, right? What do you know about it, Lim? I don't know anything. I just know how liberals are, Sheriff. You probably have a tough time putting the guilty behind bars because it's always somebody else's fault, right, Sheriff? It's never the guilty's fault. They didn't do it. Somebody made them do it, right, Sheriff? Oh, what a great signal it would send to have this guy acquitted. That would be good, wouldn't it? That'd make people stand up. Limbaugh, do you have any proof what you're saying about this? No, I don't have any proof. And the sheriff doesn't either. The difference is I'm just a guy on the radio. I can't do one thing to people. Sheriff can. Although he didn't in this case. So a reporter said, hey, Sheriff, can you say anything about a possible motive for this?
When you look at unbalanced people, how they respond to the vitriol that comes out of certain mouths about tearing down the government, the anger, the hatred, the bigotry that goes on in this country is getting to be outrageous.
Stop the tape a second. Who is it that's tearing down the country and tearing down the government? Who is it that's running around apologizing for the country all over the world, Sheriff? Who is it that's running around admitting to dictators and thugs around the world the U.S. is guilty? Who's doing that, Sheriff? President of the United States is, Sheriff. American Democrats during the presidential campaign. I couldn't tell the difference between what they were saying about this country and what the Iranian president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was saying about this country, Sheriff. When I hear an American hater in Europe or Asia or the Middle East talk, sounds to me like your average Democrat running a campaign. I can't tell the difference, Sheriff. Who is it, Sheriff? It's tearing down the government. Who is it, Sheriff, tearing down the country? Who is it, Sheriff, doesn't like the Constitution? Who is it saying people like the Constitution have a fetish? Who's saying that, Sheriff? And by contrast, Sheriff, who's defending the country? Who's trying to save the country from people, from destroying it the way it was now? Who's doing that, Sheriff? What really is the source of all this vitriol, Sheriff? You think people should just sit around and let their futures be stolen with all this debt and all this spending? You think people have an opportunity for prosperity is whittling away?
Because the political party sees fit to destroy political and economic opportunity? Sheriff, you think, I mean, we should just sit around here, Sheriff, and watch all this destruction of our country and economy take place? Who's doing it, Sheriff? The Republicans haven't had any power for 2 years, Sheriff. For 2 years, the Republicans have not been able to stop one thing that has led to the erosion and destruction of the U.S. economy, Sheriff. The Republicans haven't been able to do one thing. If anybody's unhappy out there, Sheriff, it can't be at Republicans. They haven't done anything. They haven't been able. They haven't had the political power to do a damn thing, Sheriff. You might want to look again at this, Sheriff, because you're indicting your own side here. By the way, Sheriff, your words here are pretty vitriolic. I mean, are you prepared for whatever might result from these words of yours? Tearing down the government, the anger, the hatred, the bigotry. You're calling a lot of people a lot of names here, Sheriff. You're supposed to be a nonpartisan lawman. You're calling a lot of people names here. I mean, can you be sure that you're not going to inspire another lunatic
to pick up a gun. Here's the rest of the sheriff's conversation.
And unfortunately, Arizona, I think, has become sort of the capital. We have become the Mecca for prejudice and bigotry.
Was this related to prejudice and bigotry? Or
Pardon?
Was this related possibly then to prejudice?
All I can tell you is that there's reason to believe that this individual may have a mental issue. And I think that people who are unbalanced are especially susceptible to vitriol.
Yeah, vitriol. What about real life? What's more harmful, Mr. Sheriff? An economy being destroyed and people losing their jobs, no hope of getting them back, or a bunch of people talking about it? What really, Sheriff, is having more impact on people's lives? The fact they can't get a job, the fact that every so-called effort to create jobs destroys more jobs. What really is causing people to have some angst out there, Sheriff? Did you say this, Sheriff? Arizona is the Mecca for prejudice and bigotry? You're a lawman there, Sheriff. You're supposed to be able to do something about putting away people that behave in a criminal way because of prejudice or bigotry. You live in the capital of it? You live in the capital of obviously, the sheriff's talking here about illegal immigration. Sheriff, have you seen the movie Machete? Dawn, you don't want to watch Machete. You don't want your daughters to watch Machete. You seen it, Brian? Brian, you'd like it. Sheriff, you ought to go watch Machete. I think it's a fictional story, takes place in your state, Sheriff. If not your state's Texas, but you might want to take a look at the movie. And ask yourself, did the shooter ever see the movie, Sheriff? Machete. Well, it'd be worth it, Sheriff. It's all about the issue you claim is leading to prejudice and bigotry in your state. If you go watch this movie, folks, be very careful. This is blood and gore and guts like you've never seen before. Well, not never seen before, but it's up there in the top 10. Be careful. Sheriff, you ought to go watch the movie. Who knows? You might agree with it. Sheriff, for all I know, listening to you speak,